Good Monday morning to you. I'm Reagan Devines. Thank you for being here with us on From the South. Here are the headlines. A final text on victims and transitional justice in Colombia to be published tomorrow. Can TV workers in Venezuela protest after the opposition threatens to fire them? And protest action, this time in Turkey, lead to the deaths of at least 2. The details on these stories and more now. On Tuesday, the Colombian government and the FARC will publicly announce that they have reached a final agreement on the issue of victims and transitional justice. This is one of the more controversial points in the peace talks that are taking place in Havana. The government announced this Monday morning on Twitter that the whole text of the victims agreement will be published on Tuesday and that they expect the same with all 74 points of the transitional justice agreement. A group of 10 victims has traveled to Cuba to be present at the public announcement. The two sides had come to a preliminary agreement earlier this fall, but have for the past months been discussing the finer points. The FARC delegation also laid out a proposal for laying down its arms based on 10 steps to be agreed by both sides.
The laying down of arms will be based on a national political agreement which should commit particularly and publicly to government and other organizations of state, as well the political parties and business associations.
A man has been captured in Spain for allegedly practicing forced abortions on female FARC fighters. Hector Albides Arboleda, known as the nurse or the doctor, is accused of aggravated torture, performing non-consensual abortions, and aggravated conspiracy. According to Colombian authorities, he is responsible for some 150 abortions, despite the fact that he studied nursing but was never a doctor.
Several women died during the process of the abortion. Others suffered injuries. Others said they felt the abortions as torture. So we are going to charge this man, captured in Spain and known as alias the medic or the nurse, with a catalogue of crimes.
Meanwhile, a group of mothers whose sons were murdered by the military in 2008 in what is known as false positives are suing former President Álvaro Uribe for slander. Uribe posted a tweet on Friday suggesting that the sons were involved in criminal practices. According to past criminal investigations, the victims were told that they had been selected for a job but were delivered to and executed by members of the Colombian Army's 15th Brigade, which was in charge of Álvaro Uribe as Commander-in-Chief. They were then buried in a mass grave and filed as guerrillas in combat, a practice known as false positives. Argentine President Mauricio Macri has taken a decisive step in his plans to roll back the policies of former President Cristina Fernández. During an activity on the outskirts of Buenos Aires, Macri announced that in the coming hours he would sign a decree to eliminate direct taxes on the export of big agribusiness corporations producing corn, wheat and beef, and to lower taxes on soya, one of the country's top agricultural exports. President Fernández's government used these funds for social welfare projects and infrastructure. The issue caused a major conflict with landowners back in 2008. Macri promised that the country will duplicate its food production, but did not explain how.
I am here because I trust in you. I know that it is true what the papers say, what the strategic planning reports say. We can double food production in Argentina. We have to stop thinking of whether we develop industry or the rural areas. It's the rural farmland and the industry. It's the farmland and the country.
Argentinians have gathered in Buenos Aires' Plaza de Mayo to reject the new government of Mauricio Macri's intention to revoke the media law. Journalists and citizens got together to defend press freedom and the achievements gained in the last years. Mauricio Macri has transferred the Federal Authority for Audiovisual Communication Services to the new Communications Secretary in order to put limits to the current law. The media law was promoted and passed during Fernandez's administration, and it was drafted mainly by social movements fighting for a less concentrated media landscape and wider views in their coverage. Workers of Venezuelan state telecompany CANTV have taken to the streets after the winning right-wing opposition announced its intentions to privatize the company and fire thousands of its staff members. The public workers expressed their support to the revolutionary process headed by President Nicolas Maduro and rejected the privatization of the entities that were recovered by the Bolivarian government in order to serve the people.
Here we are, all the workers of CANTV, the mates of the technical board, to support the management of our President Nicolas Maduro, supporting that CANTV must be respected.
Chile's Attorney General Office questioned politician Marco Enriquez Ominami, founder of the Progressive Party, for 3 hours regarding the illegal funding of political campaigns. The investigation seeks to resolve whether the mining company Sokimich provided Ominami with illegal funding. It's been proven that one of Sokimich's affiliates gave Ominami's former chief of campaign, Christian Wagner, around $510,000, representing 34 invoices for services that were apparently not rendered. The company was until recently controlled by the son-in-law of Augusto Pinochet, Julio Ponce. Ominami is the son of a guerrilla member killed during Pinochet's dictatorship.
I confirm that I acted according to the law, in a legal way, and in the name of the progressives, I want to say that we highly value the pressure of the press and its interests. And let's hope you'll have the same for the other candidates whose campaign has been questioned.
And in Honduras, FIFA official and former president Rafael Callejas has decided to turn himself into the United States government as part of the ongoing U.S. investigation on corruption in the soccer body. Callejas is a prominent member of the ruling National Party. The Honduran government did not respond to extradition requests made by the U.S. government. Elected women to municipal councils in Paraguay have taken part in a debate about the implementation of state policies in their country. The meeting aims to make new authorities aware of the inclusion of gender equality in municipal management in order to analyze the situation of women, human rights and citizenship. 26 women were elected as mayors out of 250 municipalities. 184 mass graves containing over 500 corpses have been found in Mexico in the last 5 years. This was announced by the country's Attorney General's office, which added that almost half of them were found in the state of Guerrero. A third of the illegal graves were found in the city of Iguala in Guerrero, where the 43 Ayotzinapa students disappeared. As a result of violence, there have been over 120 mass displacements between 2008 and 2010, with a fifth of them also in Guerrero, with a significant increase this year alone. Criminal gangs have are often linked to local state officials in Guerrero State. President Evo Morales in Bolivia joined a rally at Sucre organized by his ruling MAS party to begin its referendum campaign. The president warned that mainstream media outlets and opposition parties are trying to confuse people with dirty tricks. The president is campaigning for the yes vote to amend the constitution, which would allow Morales to run for re-election. The initiative also seeks to comply to the 2025 agenda, which, among other issues, seeks to eradicate extreme poverty and to universalize basic needs. U.S. President Barack Obama has sent a stern warning to Islamic State group that their leaders cannot hide. During a press conference, Obama said that his forces are hitting ISIS even harder than ever. He said that the U.S. coalition strategy is urgently moving forward on 4 fronts, namely hunting down and taking out the terrorists, training and equipping Iraqi and Syrian forces to fight ISIS on the ground, disrupting ISIS recruiting and propaganda machinery, and concentrating on ending the Syrian civil war so that all involved can focus on destroying ISIS. U.S. Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Affairs Stephen O'Brien is urging the international community to generously support the U.S. $3.2 billion campaign operations plan for war-torn Syria. Speaking from Damascus, O'Brien said that the UN and its partners have finalized the Humanitarian Response Plan for 2016, which requires $3.2 billion for 13.5 million Syrians.
I don't recognize that humanitarian assistance has been politicized. I would certainly not wish it to be. And to the extent that there are resolutions in place in order to assist the delivery of humanitarian needs where those humanitarian supplies where those needs are, that's absolutely right that we should use those modalities to reach everybody we possibly can. And I think it would be a misinterpretation to assume that that therefore is a politicization. These are maximizing the opportunities to reach the maximum number of people we can. And we can always do more, and we need more chance to reach people, particularly in the besieged areas and the hard-to-reach areas.
The Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations for Humanitarian Affairs, Stephen O'Brien, spent 3 days visiting different regions of Syria to assess the humanitarian situation and living conditions. At the end of his visit, he was clear about the needs.
We need $3.2 billion to help 13.5 million Syrians who require some form of assistance. Some 6.5 million of them are internally displaced. 72% of the population have no access to drinking water. And 2 million children are out of school. This situation is unacceptable, a blot on our collective conscience.
His visit came as extremists of the Army of Islam struck Damascus with mortar shells that killed 13 people and wounded dozens more.
These shells and bombings are all nothing. We are not afraid of them, and we are all ready to sacrifice ourselves for our country.
Despite the shells falling on Damascus, today we are determined to support our homeland and support our president, who protects this country.
Despite more than 50 mortar shells being fired by the so-called Army of Islam in the capital Damascus, university students marched to reject terrorism. They chanted that life will go on, no matter what the terror groups try to do. Hazem Abdullah, Tilisu, Syria.
Another Palestinian man has been shot dead by Israeli police in Jerusalem. Reports are that the 21-year-old injured 8 people after he drove a car into them at a bus stop. Police say the man also had an axe inside the car. In other news, the parents of a 22-year-old Israeli man said to have been killed back in 2014 are demanding the remains of their son. Noor Harazin has more.
The mother of an Israeli soldier in Hamas captivity, Shaawal Aron, addressed the Islamist movement's senior leader Ismail Haniyeh and argued him to show evidence that her son is still alive, vowing to turn the country upside down in order to get a prisoner swap deal to retrieve her son. Zihava made her statements at the press conference held Sunday afternoon at her residence in response to a letter released by Hamas Sunday morning and claimed to be penned by her son. In the letter, Shaul emotionally begs his parents to do more efforts to ensure his release. Meanwhile, Hamas movement refuses to give any information on the destiny of Shaul Aron and his comrade Hadar Golden before Israel ensures the release of more than 1,000 prisoners who were freed in the framework of Shalit's swap deal in 2011, yet were arrested again by the Israeli forces in 2014.
This message is a present from the Al-Qassam brigades on its founding anniversary. It's very well known that media propaganda is required. Certainly, Israel benefited from its previous experience in the Gilad Shalit's swap deal. It's Shaul Oron. For the Israelis, Shaul is just a body. And because of that, the Israelis are not concerned about a new prisoners exchange deal. They want to weaken their enemy Hamas. And this is one of the new lessons that the Israelis have recently learned.
Israel announced Shaul and 6 other soldiers killed on June 20, 2014 during Operation Protective Edge against Gaza Strip after their tank was struck by an anti-tank missile eastern Gaza City. Israel could collect the remains of only 6 soldiers, while it pronounced Shaul's body as missing. Noharazin Trisu TV, Gaza.
EU foreign ministers have held renewed talks with Turkey as part of a barter system. The EU is offering Turkey cash, visas and a promise to join the Union in exchange for the country's assistance in dealing with the refugee crisis. Critics, however, do not believe that Turkey will attain membership anytime soon, as Erdogan's government is considered authoritarian. Back in November, the European Commission requested that Turkey address its restrictions on media freedom, respect human rights, and stop interfering in its judiciary.
Minister.
At least 2 people, one 21 years of age and the other 25, are dead after clashes broke out between police and protesters in Turkey's southwestern city of Diyarbakir. This comes after the government's decision to impose a curfew 2 weeks ago, supposedly to facilitate counter-terrorism operations against the Kurdistan Workers' Party militant group, also known as the PKK. The government has been fighting with the PKK for the past few months, which all began after a deadly bombing on July 20th in the southern Turkish town of Suruk. The government had blamed that attack on Islamic State group, which the PKK militants have accused the government of supporting. And in Central African Republic, at least 5 people are dead as citizens voted in a referendum aimed at ending years of sectarian strife. Some factions of the mainly Muslim Seleka force had threatened to block the vote, as had some supporters of the mainly Christian militia known as the Anti-Balaka. Among the latter were backers of ousted President Francois Bozize, whose candidacy for the upcoming presidential election had been rejected by the Constitutional Court. Here now is a brief look at other news stories around the world.
MELOR has weakened from a Category 4 typhoon to a Category 2 over the past day. However, it is expected to hit landfall a few more times as the Philippines is made up of thousands of islands. Over 700,000 people have been preemptively evacuated in advance of its approach. Egypt's tourism industry has taken a hit since a plane carrying Russian and British passengers was bombed out of the sky. The self-proclaimed Islamic State group had claimed responsibility for the October 31st attack. Egypt has now hired an international company to help them improve airport security. Former Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan has been reappointed to the post. Reports are that he's been rehired to help restore confidence in the country's financial sector. Gordhan had served as Finance Minister from 2009 to 2014 and is one of the main negotiators in the drafting of South Africa's democratic constitution from 1991 to 1994. And the jury will soon be read for the first of 6 police officers charged with the death of Freddie Gray, who passed away in police custody 7 months ago. Closing arguments were heard earlier this Monday in the case of William Porter, who has been charged with manslaughter, second-degree assault, reckless endangerment, and misconduct in office.
Italy launched their bid for the 2024 Olympic Games with an acrobatic performance. Former Ferrari boss Luca Di Montecelemo spoke at the bid presentation. He said that Rome will work night and day to win the Olympic bid, adding that there is great enthusiasm in the city. However, problems of corruption, strapped finances, and crumbling infrastructure do pose a considerable challenge to Italy to secure that bid. World #1 lawn tennis superstar Serena Williams has been picked as the 2015 Sports Illustrated Sportsperson of the Year. According to the magazine, quote, "No other active U.S. athlete rules a sport the way Serena Williams rules hers, and few reflect our era better," end quote. In a clear statement of dominance, the magazine cover features a very confident Williams sitting on a golden throne with one leg up on the chair's arm. Some have expressed disappointment though. An online poll by fans of the horse American Pharaoh said that because the horse had won the Triple Crown and the Grand Slam championships this year, it should have gotten the Sports Illustrated cover instead of Serena. And finally, the book The Freak is a Charlie Chaplin masterpiece that never was. It was published earlier in December in Switzerland and has for the first time given a full account of an unfulfilled project with which Chaplin had intended to be his last film. The famous filmmaker wrote the synopsis for the story back in 1969 at the age of 80 and worked on the project for another 2 years. The family kept it a secret until now as they wanted to protect their father's story. Feel free to join us on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter for more on these and other stories. And of course, for extensive coverage of developing stories, you can visit our website, telesurtv.net/English. For Telesur English, my name is Regan Devines. Have a great evening. Bye.